All right, guys, we are back. It is Angela Smith of Anjanelle, where I firmly believe your shape or size does not determine your fly. Welcome back to the next course in the Anjanelle Online Sewing University. Today's lesson, we are going to learn how to sew a buttonhole on a garment. And I'm going to go ahead and teach you how to put on a button by hand, okay? So let's get into it. What you're looking at is just a sample. I'm not going to make a full garment. I just did a sample on muslin. I'm going to sew the buttonhole on muslin just as a practice exercise. So I'm not making a full garment with the buttonholes, okay? One of the things you're going to need is a buttonhole guide. Okay, a buttonhole guide. Now, I actually made this guide myself out of the muslin, but I am going to be honest. I don't do men's clothing. I do women's clothing. I wanted to try out a men's vest years ago, and I saw a buttonhole guide in the pattern, and I thought that that was really, really neat. I had never seen one before, so I duplicated it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with buying patterns, you guys. There's nothing wrong with it. I still, every now and then, when my mind is a little foggy or I can't think of anything creative, I'll go through and look at different patterns. I may even grab a pattern and I may make edits to it, or I might see something really, really unique that I want to try. So there's nothing wrong with it. What I'm teaching you is how to make your own patterns, how to manipulate your patterns. But again, if you decide that you want to buy a pattern, is nothing wrong with that. And it'll actually be easier after you've gone through making your own patterns. It'll be a piece of cake to follow the directions that's included in those patterns, okay? So I want you to make a buttonhole guide yourself. Now for this one, I use the mock-up so you can see this is like the front panel of a vest. And so my buttonhole guide lines up with the bottom of the front panel, and right here at the top, you see I have my little curve in there as well. You don't have to do this. You can use your regular front pattern. How about that? And what I want you to do, instead of like adding this little curve and this slant line, I just want you to make it rectangle, okay? I want you to do it 2 inches wide, and I want you to do it 14 inches long, okay? So you're going to have a 14 by 2 inch rectangle, okay? That's what I want you to do. Then if you see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. These are for the actual buttons. These are going to be my buttonholes. So I also want you to put 4 buttons on your button guide. These buttons, because this is 2 inches wide, your buttonhole is going to sit directly in the middle. And the line itself is about 3/4 inches. Okay, so you want to make sure it's completely centered. So make sure you have an even amount of space on this side and on this side, and do your buttonhole stitch 3/4 inches. Okay, so I hope that that makes sense. I just want you to have a rectangle with 4 notches. You can space them out however you please. I like this width apart, and I didn't measure that. Let me do that for you real fast. So it looks like I have about a little bit over 3.5 inches in between my buttonholes. So I want you to do that exact same thing, about 3.5 inches in between your buttonhole. And you can even do more than 4 if you want, because this is just a practice exercise, okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to transfer over those marks, okay? Now, I have this tool right here. I've had this since fashion school. I don't remember what it's called. I'm just going to keep it real. I don't remember what this thing is called. This is what it looks like. It just has a little rolly wheel, and it's kind of sharp, and it has, you know, these little spikes. If I can remember by the time I edit this video, I will most definitely put it in the description, okay? But I have this thing, and this is super, super cool, because all I have to do is, as straight as I can, I'm just going to run this through and it's going to leave a really, really light indentation on my garment. Another thing you can do, and the reason why I use this instead is because when you transfer over the marks, like you can use chalk or something like that, but I found it was kind of hard trying to transfer over that. So the best thing I could come up with was this. I remembered that we used this in fashion school. So all you have to do is just on a hard surface. I'm on my ironing board right now, but on a hard surface, you're just going to run this in here, and you want to make sure it's the exact same length. So be careful. Then we're going to go to the sewing machine. Okay, y'all. So another thing that I wanted to mention is that because I stated this was a vest, you need 2 of your front pieces, okay? And you're going to use that buttonhole guide that you create on both pieces, okay? And then you want to make sure, buttons are really, really, really tedious, okay? So you want to make sure everything is lined up completely. You want to make sure on the side that your buttonholes are going to be on, all of your stitches are perfectly even. Even if you didn't transfer over the marks that well with this, I told you that they were 3/4 inches long. You want to make sure you go through and make sure all of these are 3/4 inches long, okay? The other front piece is going to be for the actual buttons, okay? So you want to make sure that is all perfectly even because the button has to go into the buttonhole, okay? You know how this works. And it's basically just going to kind of overlap just a little bit like that. That's how a vest works, right? So keep that in mind. After I use this, what I did to transfer over the marks is I personally went in with a pen. Don't do what I do. Keep in mind, this is just for teaching purposes. What I recommend you use is fabric chalk or a fabric pen, something that's washable. Because even though on the side where the buttonholes are going to be, whatever you use won't matter, where the actual button is, that is going to matter. So keep that in mind. You don't want pen marks or whatever on your actual garment. So use something that's actually washable, like a fabric chalk or a fabric marker, okay? So once you have all of your marks, you verify everything is perfectly even, just all the way around. Your stitches are even, they're lined up evenly. Then we're going to get on the sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how to sew the buttonhole. Hey, quick edit before I get on the sewing machine. I did have to add what's called interfacing to the back of this. You can barely even see it. It's really, really thin. Interfacing is a material that is like an iron-on stiffener. You'll see it in a lot of garments that require a collar. You'll see it in vests, blazers, things of that nature. This is something that I'm going to cover. But the reason why I had to do that is because typically, if you're designing something like what I'm doing, like a mock-up of a vest, you'll already have your lining attached to this, so it'll be a little bit thicker. Muslin is really, really thin. So I added that stiffener. I just basically cut the exact same pattern that I have for the button guide. So this button guide, I didn't transfer over any marks. I literally just cut all the way around this in interfacing, and I ironed it on. So you can kind of see it a little bit through the front, through my flash, but it's just to make it a little bit thicker. Now we're going to get on the sewing machine. Okay, so I'm getting as close as I possibly can so that y'all can see exactly what I'm doing here, okay? So I have, first of all, let me show you the stitches, okay? I pointed this out before, but I'm going to point it out again. For the buttonhole, you're going to use B, AC, and D. It shows you that AC goes this way. It gives you this top stitch and this bottom stitch. It shows you D goes down. You see the downwards arrow. And B goes up. So keep in mind we're doing a rectangle. So basically you're doing AC, then you're going to go down, AC again, B to go up, okay? So I hope that makes sense. Just really, really study that if it didn't. But the diagram is really, really descriptive, and that should have made plenty of sense, okay? So I'm going to put my garment under here. So this is my buttonhole. Disregard that little mark right there. I'm going to line up the opening of my foot, that little slit right there. I'm going to line that up to the best of my ability with my pen mark, my chalk mark, whatever you guys decided to use, okay? Then I'm going to let my foot down. Oh, I'm not at the top of it. Make sure you're at the very tip top of it, okay? First thing I'm going to do is AC. So watch at what AC does. I'm just going to hand wheel it. AC does exactly like it showed you in a diagram. It's going from left to right. From left to right. So I'm going to put a little power behind it. It may get loud because I'm on the machine. Okay, so I just did a few stitches to the left and to the right. Then I'm going down, okay? So I'm going with the letter D. You have to make sure before you switch the shifts that your foot is up. Your needle, is up, okay? It can't still be down. Then I'm going to switch it to D. So I just switched my knob to D. Now, D goes down, right? D for down. So watch this. It's pushing it away from me. And you want to be really careful. Okay, we went all the way to the end of that pin mark. And then guess what we're going to do? We have our needle up. And we are going to switch this back to AC. It looks a little different because of the angle, but it's on AC. Okay, so it's back on AC. So watch what happens. It's going back to the left and to the right again. Then, last stitch, I'm going to put my needle up, right? And I'm going to go back to my nozzle. And I'm going to go to B. B is going to go up, and it's going to complete my rectangle. And you want to go all the way up. And you're going to meet that A, the very first stitch you did. You're going to go back to AC. Just a couple of stitches. I'm just going to hand wheel it. I got a little bit off track. Trying to record, trying to multitask. Just a couple of stitches. You don't have to worry about back stitch. I'm going to lift that foot up. Get my garment from under there. I have to cut mine. I know some of y'all don't have to do that. And that is what your buttonhole looks like. I messed up a little bit on the top. Let me show you the back of it. The back of it is really, really pretty. And some of y'all have newer machines, so it may look a little bit neater than mine. That's what it looks like. And then what you do, where you see that pin mark, you're going to cut that. Take a sharp knife, and you're going to cut an opening right here in the middle. And that is going to create your buttonhole, okay? So I'm going to finish up my other buttonholes. I'm going to put my slits in there, and then I'll show you how to sew on a button. All right, guys, so I took my really, really sharp, small scissors. They're really little scissors. And I went in here and I opened up my buttonhole. Okay, look at that. It looks like a little mouth or something, right? But you don't want to go past your AC stitches. And I just literally just folded it in half, did a small slit just to get it open, and then I went in there carefully and opened it up. So you don't want to go past your stitches. It may fray a little bit in here, but guess what? It won't go past any of this rectangle. Okay, that's a part of the game. You can go in there with some scissors and you can clean that up. Okay, next thing we have is a button. Now, when I purchased this pattern, again, it's a men's pattern. It told me that I can go with a 1/2 inch or a 5/8 inch button. Okay, so I measured this button and it lines up. So don't forget, we transferred over our marks. I'm just going to line that up. You see, I have 2 holes in my buttons. You can do 4 if you so choose. And I'm just going to line it up with the pin mark, get it as centered as possible. I knotted my hand needle, and I'm going to go in the back of the button. Okay, so you got to kind of feel around in there until you get it, and you don't want to move it too much. Okay, there we go. So I'm pulling my needle through, keep those straight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the second hole, and I'm kind of going to do it at an angle, as much of an angle as I can, because the goal is you want to keep this as clean as possible on the back side of the button. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm just going back into the exact same, as close as I can, the exact same entry point as the first stitch. Trying to hold my camera so y'all can see. Sorry if it's wobbling. So I'm just literally going in and out. Every time I go into the second hole, I'm going in at an angle because I want the stitch on the back to be as clean as possible. And if you look, that's really clean. That's really small. I'm going to cut that. That's where I started. But look at how small that is. So I'm going to do that just about maybe 10 stitches or so. By hand, you want to just be really, really careful. Going in at an angle. And you just want to keep that in alignment. Okay, so you see that's really, really clean. It's really, really neat. And now let me show you how to close it, because you're not going to knot it. So I'm going to go in one last time here at an angle. Pull that out. And to close it up, I'm going to go as deep up under there as I can. And I'm just going to do that. Look, I got that caught up. I'm just going to do that a couple of times. So again, let it focus. Taking my needle and I'm going up under all of those stitches. Be careful. Move that fabric out the way. I'm going to go up under there just a couple of times. You know, do about maybe 4 times total. Then you're just going to take your scissors and you're going to cut it. Okay. Take my scissors. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to go back to that very, very beginning stitch that you see is still sticking up. Clean that up. Look at that. Look how small that is. Look at how clean it is on the front. It's in there very, very tight. It's perfectly aligned. Put my button in there and look at that. Finish up your buttons, go all the way down. Make sure they align perfectly. And that's it, guys. I hope you have fun with this tutorial. Those buttonholes can be a beast, but you got it. Keep this technique. Make sure you practice this technique and get really, really good at it, because we are going to pull this out later in the courses. Angela Smith, signing out.